been on at the time, a few times on Sundays and on Wednesdays. And he always enriches us one way or another. Um, so to introduce him, I just want to point out that um, there was he was interviewed, well, multiple times, and this was a few years ago, but the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation approached him. There was a headline that said the headline said St. Stephen Church rebels against order to stop performing same-sex marriage, and eventually they were they had to leave the Canadian collective of vineyard churches. And Peter said, although they were heartbroken by the final decree, there aren't any hard feelings between the two groups. He said that we think church history is littered with ugly separations, and we just didn't want to do that. That tells you a bit about Peter. Um, I don't know if in his rear view he looks at things the same way, but he has been an inspiration for me for many years. And so, let's see, Peter Fitch. I am, there you are. I was looking for Peter Fitch, and now I find St. Stephen University. Um, Welcome, my dear friend. Peter is a very dear friend. All right, take it away, Peter.
Thank you, David. Yeah, this is this is a group that I have the highest respect for, and for David and Diane, and and the folks that I've connected with a little bit over the years, and just I'm always moved by the beginning part of the service. It's the music and the readings. It always gets to me. And then we have the breakout room, and we one of our members was talking about getting close to retirement, and I'm about half retired now. I'm a half-time professor at our university where David also teaches, and I've just loved it. But I'm thinking now that I'm in my 70s, I'm thinking you gotta try to be here for with quality of life as well as length of life. I hope I'm here for a while for my children and my grandchildren, and especially for Mary Ellen, my wife. That's I want to be here, but I also want to really be here. So I take care of myself physically as best I can. I haven't stopped eating chocolate. Um, um, but we walk every day and things like that. But then, what happens is you start to worry because you can't remember somebody's name and you think, oh no, that's happening, And we've seen a few friends who've gone down a really difficult walk and with memory loss. And so I've been remembering that years and years ago, actually, when I first became interested in Christianity, I I came from a non-Christian background. I was at university. Some friends talked to me, and I was sort of in the 19, I guess it was 1971, and I listened with some enthusiasm after some resistance, and then I ended up uh, becoming a very passionate young Christian, and and I realized over time that my brain didn't seem to work as well as it had when I was a child. And I think this was because of some high school years before I got to this point where I experimented with drugs and alcohol and things, and I just felt like my brain just wasn't working. And I had an accident and had to spend some time out of normal life. And and one thing that I did just to pass the time was I memorized Isaiah 53. I just thought maybe I should do this. And I started telling everybody that I was around my brain was on fire. It was just working so well after I'd memorized these 12 verses. So I got really excited about memorizing. And the next couple of years especially the next year while I was recovering from the accident, I I just I memorized books of the Bible, and it did something to my brain. It made it easier to go to school because it developed a really good short-term memory. So when I could read my notes, or if I had lousy notes, I could borrow somebody's notes, and I could remember them almost as if I'd seen them for the next, few hours, which was really helpful for tests. The next day, I usually was gone completely, but it was helpful for a little while. So here I am at this point in life, and I started doing it again. I noticed that I don't always sleep perfectly. Sometimes it's, well, most of the time, it's because I'm worried about something that's going on in the life of one of my grown children, or it's because of something that's going on around in the world, or it's because of something that's going on around my own circumstances. And something, in the middle of the night, especially if I get a little bit anxious, I just find that Psalm 23 has been a gift to me. I've said it a million times now. I just memorized it, and I just started loving it and thinking it through in different ways and praying it for people. It's been a real gift. But this summer, I got excited about Robert Frost. And Robert Frost is, considered one of the greatest American poets. And I love stopping by the woods on a snowy evening, and two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and good fences make good neighbors, the mending wall. I love these poems, and I started memorizing them. And largely it was just because I'm thinking it's exercise for my brain. But I noticed that I'm doing more than that. I'm finding how elastic the concepts are. It's as though the poetry from these brilliant people like Frost, they just describe something so mundane, so natural, but really they've hidden a whole world of meaning behind it. And Frost even taught about this. He said that I have a quote. David, is it possible for me to bring up things? Can I share my screen? Is, what do you think? Will it work?
Should work now.
Okay, give it a shot. Yeah, let's try it. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. This is something that Robert Frost said. He said, some such symbolic import of mundane facts informs, oh, this is sorry, somebody writing about him, informs many of Frost's poems. And in Education by Poetry, he explained poetry begins in trivial metaphors, pretty metaphors, grace metaphors, and it goes on to the profoundest thinking that we have. Poetry provides the one permissible way of saying one thing and meaning another. Unless you are at home in the metaphor, unless you've had your proper poetical education in the metaphor, you're not safe anywhere. I love that thought, and I'll show you my favorite, I guess, of the poems is this one, the famous stopping by woods on a snowy evening. And I'm sure everybody's heard it, or probably when you were a child. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there's some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I think it's an incredible picture. I live in Canada. We're getting close to a time with snow, but it's not here yet, thank goodness. But let's read it once more, and then I just want to say a few things about Frost's life. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there's some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind, downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Well, this is what I know about Robert Frost. He lived a hard life. He um he got married in 1895 to Eleanor White, and she predeceased him. She lived till 1938 and died of cancer and heart complications. But they had six children. Eliot was born in 1896, but he died just 4 years later of cholera. Carol was born in 1902, but was unhappy and died of suicide in 1940, just 2 years after his mom died. And Robert Frost found his son. Carol, his name was Carol. Irma was born in 1903 and had mental illness. Marjorie was born in 1905 and died in her late 20s after giving birth. Eleanor was born in 1907 and died weeks after being born. He was a poor man. He worked hard, wasn't famous for many, many years. He worked hard as a farmer. He worked in the woods, and he just wrote about the most natural things. And then finally, he wrote this poem that became so famous, 1923. And he wrote it in 1922. It was first published in 1923. And when you think about all the difficulty that he faced in his life, all the hard times, the poem takes on different meaning, doesn't it? You think whose woods these are. I think I know his house is in nobody's gonna notice me stopping here to ponder and think. And then even my horse thinks this is crazy. It's what are we doing out here? And I'm looking at the woods, and they're so lovely, dark and deep. And you just get this feeling like I could give up. I could give it all up. I could just stop right now. Why am I going on? And then something inside of him rises up and says, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. It's like I can't stop. I can't stop, won't stop. I can't stop doing this. I've been given a job to do. I've got to I've got to keep being the best representation of God in me that I can be for the rest of my life. I've got to keep navigating every trial that comes my way in the best way that I can see to do it. I've got to, even if people think I'm wrong, I've got to figure out what I think is right and then hold the course. I've got to do it. I've got promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. I'd love to lay down, and there are times when I feel like I can't get up again. But I got I got promises to keep. And I just love this. I've got responsibilities. Every one of us has been placed in a unique situation with people around us that we love. And we have obligations to do the best that we can for them for as long as we can. And for the world that's hurting so much, to try to right it as best as we can, to imagine a better future and then to walk toward it. I got promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And then I loved, this actually when I was listening to the songs, David, the first song reminded me of this kind of I'm not gonna move, the boy who won't be moved. But the second song is, there's how does she say it? There's music in the air above me.
Hmm.
There's a I believe in joy. I believe that I'm not alone in this determination to keep going forward. I believe that I'm not alone. I believe in the love of God. I believe in the companionship of God. And I believe I'm not alone. I believe that the best thing I can do, like Alice Wong says, is to accept the situation as it is and to live it with all the gusto I'm capable of. So that's it for me for a talk.
Well, thank you, Peter. We enjoy you.
Me too.
Every time you enjoy you too, and we enjoy you.
No, I
We
enjoy being
oh
here.
okay. Well, you gotta enjoy you too, though. Gotta
Yeah, I
keep
guess that's
that
right.
joy, and
Mm.
I certainly appreciate you speaking to us this morning. And that poem from Robert Frost, with all that's going on then in this world, we have to keep going.
Mhm.
We can't give up. We
Mhm.
have to persevere through it all. With Psalms 23, the Lord is our shepherd.
Mhm.
He leads us on. And I just thank you so much. That was a beautiful poem. At first, when I heard it, I thought, oh, he's talking about Santa Claus, And I thought, because he has a long night. And then I thought, oh, no.
Yeah, he has to
So
persevere too.
he has to persevere and get all those toys. But I thought, oh, but it's beautiful as you explained it more, I went, oh, okay, it's not Santa Claus. All right.
As frosty as it may have been.
Yeah, the great one, the great one. Yeah, leads us on. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Alanea.
Oh, well, yeah, very moving for me at several
Mhm.
points. In fact, your message kind of added new dimension to some of the things I've been going through recently and in the past. Um, I like how you said, he knew that he had promises to keep, so he had to move
Mhm.
on and live with all his gusto. And I'm reading and benefiting greatly from a book called the what is it? Michael, help me. It's the not the ragged edge of sorrow. You
Oh,
know
I,
what?
I I have that
Well,
book
I
too. I just got it.
you because then you'll forget too. Okay, and
Yes.
It's The
and
Wild Edge of Sorrow.
anyway, it's a book
Mhm.
about
The
grief.
Wild Edge of Sorrow.
Oh,
Wild
yeah,
Edge of Sorrow. Thank
that's
you
right.
very
Yeah.
much.
Hmm.
And it's about, it's about dealing with your grief before you move on. We tend to be too quick. So when he paused between the woods and the frozen lake in that poem, it just reminded me of that liminal space where we can pause, we should, and we need to before we
Mhm.
move on. Both parts are important. And in our culture,
Isn't that good?
we tend to have people just shake it off, move
Mm.
on, go through your 5 stages of grieving, and then you need to get back. But, you need to deal with that liminal time of uncertainty. And it's just important for moving on and keeping those promises. So thank you. And I'm going to try memorizing again.
Hmm.
I find it pretty rich. That's such a beautiful thought about the liminal space, Linnea. I just, I'm really moved by that. It's true, you can't authentically move on if you don't take the time to figure it out and to
Hmm.
figure you out in the midst of it. How could you do that? And you could go forward with an artificial smile, which would be I imagine we've all tried that. And you could go forward with, dragging your butt with with grieving and complaining. I
Yeah.
believe, we've probably tried that too. But to do it, to really take the time in the liminal space and to work out who you are in the midst of this new phase of your life and this new circumstance, and then to determine how best to do it and to walk forward with gusto.
With
That
gusto.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's good.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And I think one
And
of the greatest, oh, excuse me. Go
I'm
Mm.
ahead.
sorry, I was just inviting people to put their hands on up in the screen if they know how to do that. Go ahead, Diane.
Well, I was just going to say one of the greatest gifts as we go through our different trials and our sorrows is time.
Mm.
That we take time, take the gift of time,
Mm.
and sometimes we just have to grab it
Hmm.
because others will say, "Well, I need you to do this, and I need you to do that, and I need you to go here, and there, and everywhere." But if you take your time and just go through what you need to do, as some people would say, be a little selfish and just do what you need to do for yourself, whatever brings healing. So
Yeah.
that was a beautiful point, Peter. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
I'm
Peter,
seeing a yes, go ahead.
Mhm.
Peter, it just in this moment struck me different from how it might have it on another day and situation because yeah, I found out this morning that my friend from high school, Steve Burns, fell and hit his head and died of a traumatic. Shell probably knows Steve Burns.
Mm.
Um, he died of a traumatic brain injury last night, and um, he was one of the most alive persons I know. I mean, surfing, river rafting, playing rock guitar, uh, climbing, all kinds of stuff. And it just seems unfair that we didn't get to say goodbye to him uh, because it feels like he still had miles to go and promises to keep. And he has grandchildren. And yeah, that's just what I was thinking as you read.
Mhm.
Well, Michael, you have your hand up.
Yes,
Mhm.
Peter, I'm so glad that every time you come, it's such a joyful time for us. I was really looking forward to it. You
Mhm.
mentioned metaphor and the intertwining and how metaphor is so important, the essence of poetry. And then as Linnea was talking about that, she brought up the grief book, and those two things reminded me of how often there's a full circle in poetry and in life. I'm struggling on how to express this, but one of the full circles, Linnea talked a little bit about grief, and right now we're grieving. I'm grieving, and Linnea too. The loss of not a physical loss from the world, but the loss of my oldest son from our lives.
Mm.
He's a very, very rabid Zionist. And as we increasingly had to speak about that, he became enraged, and the conflation that if you're against Israeli foreign policy, that's conflated as anti-Semitic by
I
some.
understand.
And he got into that, and basically, gosh, Linnea, it's been what, 2 years almost now,
Mhm.
where he just wrote a very angry and violent letter saying that we're dead to him.
Oh, come on.
And yeah,
Mm.
and so it was for me, as you were speaking and bringing up Frost poetry, so often events and emotions get woven together in this circle, this circular fashion. And so anyway, that's just kind of what it brought up for me. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thank you for sharing that.